OST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, and more. This is The Hotter Show.
What is up, everybody? We are rolling out of here today on episode 351 of The Hotter Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. We have a really kick-ass episode for you here today, as I try to every single week right here on The Hotter Show. I am sitting down with Myke Penny, the vocalist and guitarist from the almighty Jailbirds. And we have a fantastic chat talking all about what the band has been up to over the last year, getting back to playing shows after the pandemic, new members joining the fold, new writing process, some gear talk, and of course, we talk all about their brand new single, Sludge. And we even get to hear the single in its entirety, and Myke really dives into the meaning behind the song and the writing and recording process. It was a lot of fun getting to catch up with Myke. I cannot wait for you guys to hear this episode in full. But before we jump into that, I want to take a second to thank everybody for their support on last week's episode of the show, episode 350. Holy shit, 350. I cannot believe that we are here, and we celebrated with a huge milestone episode with Mr. Jason Reese from Jailbirds Digital Arts. That was such a fun conversation. If you have not heard that chat, go check it out. Jason has had an incredible journey, and he has so much fantastic insight, and I can assure you that you guys will find a piece of that conversation that will probably really hit you in a certain way, and also it's just a really fun, enjoyable conversation. So go back and check it out. But here today, we're going to jump into my chat with Myke Penny from the Jailbirds. Before we do, we're going to take a quick second to hear a word from the sponsors who are helping the Hotter Show grow. Let's check it out. Got Myke Penny from the Jailbirds back on the Hotter Show. Myke, what's up, brother? It's good to see you.
Hey, not much. Just chilling out. How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, dude. When you reached out, I was like, man, we gotta get Myke back on. I mean, the Jailbirds are one of the best freaking rock and roll bands in all of, not even Canada, all of the world. So of course, for the debut of a new single, we got to get you on to have a chat about it.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. Yeah,
absolutely. Definitely. Well, it's been a little while since we've talked, bro. Like I know that there's been a lot kind of going on, obviously with the band, but also with yourself personally. What's been going on in the life of Myke Penny since like June of last year?
Yeah, I know it's been a while. I moved to Kitchener, Ontario. I used to live like in Guelph and like in Hamilton and stuff, in Mississauga. That's where I grew up and everything, in Mississauga. And yeah, now I'm living in Kitchener, and it's pretty good. I like it a lot. And it's kind of, it's just boring, but that's mainly what's happening. Just that, and obviously now shows are coming back, so really getting back into shape with that, really, because that was that was a long time between gigging consistently. You know what I mean? Like we had kind of one off, like maybe a live stream here and there or something, but even rehearsing wasn't consistent, right? So it was like we had to really get back into it. But yeah, other than that, we've got a new single coming out now. That's really the main focus. We've got this next batch of songs that we're starting to sprinkle out now, which is cool. And shows are coming back too, which is really great. We got a whole bunch in September for this release. So it's been really good, actually. This response has been sick. Yeah.
That's badass, man. Well, I can see also behind you, for obviously this is an audio podcast, but I can see behind Myke, he's got like this whole new setup from the last time I saw him. So when you moved, is this like, you basically just like, it almost looks like you've got like a full jam room behind you.
Yeah. It's like, I treat it as like just sort of my quote unquote studio or whatever. I do a lot of like demos and stuff. And actually my setup here, you can't see it as behind the computer, but, I got like my main computer and my monitors and interface and stuff like that. So I just kind of like, it's just sort of my station. And I also do produce and like record bands on the side as well. And so sometimes I have people over here and we record stuff. I have another room on the other side of the basement here. That's like a laundry room or whatever. So we put like guitar cabs in there and stuff. And then we can turn it up and not be annoyed by the loud cabinet or whatever, and have the speakers or whatever. Yeah, it's sick. We do a lot of, it's great to have my own like kind of spot now. Before it was just like in my living room and shit like that. So it can be pretty disruptive sometimes. Like if you're just trying to focus on, maybe finishing a song or even recording or something like that, it's just like, it's nice to have sort of a isolated spot for that. Yeah, it's just like a tiny little basement. Just put up some blankets around and just isolate it a little bit. I wouldn't even really call it treated, but it's actually like decent. It's actually surprising. Like I just put U-line blankets on the walls and that was pretty much it. I got like a couple panels on the ceiling, but that's about it really. And yeah, I actually have my mic up here. You can't see it from there, but I was recording vocals for our next batch of singles and everything too, past Sludge. But yeah, that's kind of where I do it now. I actually recorded Sludge in this basement. On the vocals.
Really? Okay.
Everything else was done at EMAC recording in London, which is where we do like all the recordings, but the vocals were done here just because of like COVID and stuff like that. I just kind of like got into it more, and I've got a decent mic and we just tried it out and it worked. So we kept it, and yeah, it's cool. So I kind of foresee doing maybe a bit more of that kind of hybrid thing, which is nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. As far as I have to ask, because we were riffing a little bit before we started about how I'm having some issues myself with some acoustic treatment in my little corner of the world here. There is something to be said for those U-line moving blankets, man. They seem to be the magic touch for some reason. I don't know. You've got a really great sound over there. How many blankets did it take to fill that room? I'm just curious.
It's not completely filled, but I got the box. I think they come in a box of 6 it was or whatever. And I just have it all lined all the way around. I'm going to get another box because they're weirdly good at, baffling things. Like I don't understand how it works that good. Really, it's just a blanket. But it does. So that's great. So I've seen people like even use it they throw it over. I've seen it at like top-notch studios where they have a U-line blanket and they throw it over their guitar cabinets. It's like, this is great. It just works so fucking well. And like, it's in $1 million studio. It's awesome. But yeah, I got 6. I gotta get 2 more and then should be I think this room is like, I want to say 14 by like 10 feet or something maybe. Yeah. So it's not bad. It goes a long way. People like came over and actually came downstairs and were like, oh, like it's like a different thing. Like you just like, you know what I mean? When you walk into like a more sort of isolated room or whatever, and just kind of, you kind of hear your blood pumping a bit. So yeah, it's nice.
Do you personally feel a difference? Like say before, like you had mentioned when you were going to go, like even just jam and play guitar and practice, because obviously you're a very practiced musician, do you find now, instead of just going into the living room, having to come down and have that space, do you feel a total difference from the way it is before? Because I always found that myself, like if I can go somewhere and even for recording a podcast, do you feel the difference there?
Absolutely. Like it allows my girlfriend to also do her own thing too, which is nice because it can be, at least for me, very distracting to maybe have even like a TV show or something on. If I'm trying to like focus on writing something, if I hear any sort of melody or any sort of sound in the TV or anything like that, then that's what my mind is going to go to. And so it's, we would do headphones before or something, but I also like to just sit and watch at the same time. I also like to sit and watch a TV show or a movie or something and just kind of like riff on an acoustic guitar, just like sitting on the couch or whatever, just kind of messing around. But having your own space, definitely it allows you to really just kind of focus on it, a lot, which I really like, because again, like having a nice like dedicated space like this is it's good. You can do anything as loud as you want down here, so it's good.
As loud as you want. That's the key word.
Yeah.
I think it's important that everybody has their own space, especially if you're living with someone, like it's important you guys have your own space too, right? Like that's super helpful for sure.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Own space physically and like what's the word? Metaphorically too, I guess. It's like it comes in a lot of ways. It should have space everywhere when needed, when needed.
Yeah,
but
being able to retreat maybe at times can be beneficial to it.
Yeah. You're not attached to the hip, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Being able to, I'm going to go riff for a while. Oh, I'm going to stay here, do this. All right. Exactly. I'll see you later. Like,
I don't want to hear you play guitar again. That same fucking song I've heard you demo a million times. That's what I hear.
Okay. I get it. The riff is really good. Yeah. Let's move on.
Can you stop playing that?
Well, I got to get the tempo down. Hang on.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you prefer? This is 121 and this is 123.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's a horrendous example, but you get what I'm saying.
Funny you say that. I actually bass. I don't directly ask my girlfriend anymore because it's just too much, and she gets annoyed with it. It's a lot. I get it. I totally understand. But I just play things. I don't ask. I just play it, and maybe I'm playing on the speakers or just playing on guitar or something, and then I just like kind of watch, and if she's like dancing to it or vibing to it, I'm like, okay, this is a good riff. I should play more of this. I just like, and I work on that and make it into a song or something. Cause you come up with riffs all the time and they're not always sick, and you just figure out which ones just sort of write themselves. And then that's really, that's my philosophy, is just write like as much as you can and record everything. Even if it's like, I noticed like, I used to not record things that I thought were like okay, but I just started recording everything that I came up with. And a lot of the times, like I'll listen back to something that's like kind of shit, but it inspires something else that's actually cool, so that can be cool. But yeah, anyway, I don't know what I was saying before, but recording things.
And sometimes, this is what's fun too. Like sometimes there can be a lot of power in a recycled riff. Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
You can be like, oh, that riff's shit. But then you're sitting there one night trying to figure out this one part of a song, and I need something to transition or whatever. And it's like, what about that riff? What if I change this or play it in a different key or whatever? Like,
exactly.
You can almost like kind of make a Frankenstein type of a riff.
Exactly. Yeah. And like maybe that sequence of notes just inspires something to you that you could, because I find like sometimes you get into like a box and you can't think of anything else. And then hearing something that's different all of a sudden, just like right in your face there, right? It's that contrast sometimes helps me like get out of a box like that. You know what I mean? Because like sometimes you're just stuck and you're like, fuck, I can't think of anything that's good for this. And then you do that and you just like shut it off, listen to something else, right? Listen to some of your other demos. That's what I do all the time. Just like move on if it's not working, like flowing, you know what I mean? If I have to force it, then it's just like, okay, I'm just going to do something else. Like it's not going to be good.
Is that the approach you have strictly with writing music, or do you have that same approach vocally too? Because that's almost like, it seems like almost like a whole other ball game. If you're trying to figure out a melody,
everything,
or fit a lyric into a melody, that's the same approach.
Everything. Oh yeah. There's been like a lot of times where like sometimes you get really attached to a certain lyric or something, and you're like, oh, I really want this line in the song. But it's just like, I just try not to think about that and try to just sort of be unbiased. And all the time with everything. It's definitely my philosophy for everything, for sure. Because, it just has to be. You just have to be unbiased and listen to it and really be able to critique it and just be like, no, that's bad, or this is sick, or this is, okay. Maybe I could do something a little more cool here. I don't know, stuff like that. You just have to. It's hard to do, but you have to really try to be critical of yourself in that way. But yeah, same lyrics. You might be, like I was saying, you might have ties to this line. I can't tell you how many times I've just like not deleted that line because I liked it a lot. Just like moved it down or moved it into a different note or something, just to save maybe that line for something else, but it just didn't work in the song, right? And I was like, but I fucking really wanted it to work, right? And it's like, no, it didn't. So whatever, So that's really, I think that's what I've learned from it. I've tried to learn from other songwriters that I really resonate with their songs and stuff, and see how they do, what their influences were and stuff. And after like doing a bunch of research on it and stuff, like that's what I've kind of realized is their attitude is just sort of like what works and what doesn't. That's it,
When you're recording, like if you have an idea or whatever, do you usually like to sit down and like fully hash out that idea, or are you a voice memo guy on the phone?
Oh yeah, voice memos like 90% of the time for sure. Like I have so many that I forget about. Sometimes Liam and I even like we go back through for this board and we'll just like scroll through like months and months and months ago, and we'll find stuff that we're like, this is so sick. How do we forget about this? Like there's stuff like there's gems in there sometimes. Like it's so essential, honestly. Until you drop your phone in a bathtub or some shit, or you fry it, and you lose all your. Didn't that happen to somebody?
I was just about to say you pull a Kirk Hammett.
Kirk Hammett, that's who it was. Yeah.
He was saying that he said he lost his phone.
Oh, it sucks.
And he said he had tons of riffs on it.
Fuck. That would be the worst.
He was like, there was some banger riffs, bro. Yeah. Like he was all upset about it.
Shit. That would
James
suck.
had to pull the weight,
Yeah.
Which he would anyway. I mean, let's be serious. But
yeah, it's like there's no shortage in there.
Don't pull a Kirk Hammett, man. Don't do it.
Yeah. Just always back it up. Always have multiple backups, man. Come on. Kirk Hammett can afford a couple hard drives.
Right? It's like, come on, bro. You could put that shit on the cloud.
At least, you can, come on.
Yo, man, Dropbox, Google, listen, the Google like Docs and that whole system of is like one of the best inventions ever.
Yeah. I actually just got we've been having storage issues. We do a lot of video stuff now, and like a lot of files are shared between some people on our team here. And so we've been using Google Drive and always maxing it out and just like kind of deleting shit and like moving it to maybe personal hard drives if we can to save stuff that maybe we don't need access to or whatever. And so we just said, fuck it, let's just get Google Plus or whatever it's called, Google One, I don't know, something. And it's like 200 gigabytes a year, and it was like $40. And I was like, okay, that's pretty decent. Like share between like 5 people. It's like, okay, yeah, it's great. You can just, we just dumped everything in there. It's awesome. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's also super. I always stress to people, no matter what kind of creative endeavor you're doing, have backups of all your stuff on a flash drive somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
All my shit is now backed up on this flash drive.
Yeah.
It's like a 100 gigabyte flash drive. All my stuff's there. Yeah. Because if anything happens, I realized that one day I'm sitting there and I'm like, if something ever happens and like the internet goes down and like, or like the site I'm hosting my podcast on disappears randomly.
Yeah, it could happen.
All my stuff is gone. I'm like, oh shit, let's back that all up.
Yeah, exactly. I think about the same thing. I'm the same way. I've got like 3 copies of everything really. Yeah. And it's on the cloud too.
Especially banger riffs.
Oh yeah, of course. Like I can't tell you how many times, accidentally delete one or something. And then it's like, fuck, or you just forget to record it or something. You ever have that where you think of one in the middle of the night or something and you're like, oh, I'll remember that tomorrow morning. It'll be fine.
I'll remember that tomorrow.
Never happens. Never. You'll never get that back. It
you just got to pull a dime bag Daryl, man.
Yeah.
You ever heard the story of the shithouse poet?
No.
That's what his girl used to and his brother used to call dime bag, is he'd wake up every single night.
Okay.
And he'd go in the bathroom and he had a full rig in there.
Yeah.
Little practice amp.
No way.
He had one of his Deans from Hell sitting in there, and he had a little tape recorder.
That's
sick. He'd just sit there and blare it, and just every night he'd have some kind of an idea.
That's sick.
She called him the shithouse poet because he'd always wake up in the night. So since then, I always say to people, I'm like, always carry something on you. It's easy with phones, obviously, but
especially
it's
now,
so
right?
important.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I always wondered about like how musicians would have done that like 50 years ago, right? Like, it's wild.
Think about like trying to record a riff idea on like a phonograph.
Yeah.
Just picture that for a second. Like, okay, how about hold? Let me put the needle down.
Yeah. Like,
all right, boys, hit it.
Demos just like didn't exist. Like that's insane. It's crazy when you think about like some of your maybe favorite songs never had a demo, never had this process of going through and rewriting it and writing it again and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting to think about some of those old songs.
Recorded in one take.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's all live off the floor and shit. And not to say that that's more favorable. It just depends on what you want to do. But just, I mean, like the performance aspect, you know what I mean? And it's just like these songs are still played all over the place and like held up so highly. And yeah, they still hold up. That's the thing, right? And it's just it's really interesting to think about. It's a whole different time.
Are you somebody who I hear this a lot, especially lately, where it's like, oh man, like it's always the classic thing, right? The old school rock stuff, it just has a different feel. But I'm of the mindset that, like, you know what? Like, you can have a really polished and clean song while it can still have balls and still have that. Like, that's what I love about your guys' stuff is like, it's very clean and polished, but you're not like, it's not like prissy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's there's still some rawness there.
Yeah, no, no, thank you. I think Billy Talent's a great example of that actually too. Like they, their recordings are pristine. And yet they still they really, really hold up, and they're great songs and they're great performances and everything, but they're to a modern standard. You know what I mean? So like they've really found the sweet spot. Obviously they've obviously been like, you know, they're the best. So yeah, it's just like, I don't like that way of thinking sort of. I don't like to think like that really, where like the older is better. Like there's a lot of old crap too. You know what I mean? There's a lot of old great stuff. There's a lot of old crap. And I don't think that, I think that before you had to be, there was more of a standard, I think, in a way, because it was just so expensive to record things and to do things like that, I guess. And so the technology just wasn't there. And you had to be really fucking good for people to want to put money into, I guess. And so there's that, I guess. But also, yeah, I think that there's a lot of recordings that have come out in the past like decade or so that are, for me, like, you know, there's a lot that have been really of that level, you know what I mean? Like that timeless sort of level where you still hear it even 10 years later, right? Maybe you hadn't heard it in a while, and it's just like, there's still shit coming out like that where you can hear it and you're like, this is going to be like this for 100 years. You know what I mean? Like this song is going to kick ass 200 years from now. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think older is better. That's really what, even like with, you talk about gear too. People get sort of like vintage gear and stuff like that. It's funny to think about. I always, I don't really, you know, older can be better. There's some old crap too, just like anything. But it's interesting. Like I like to think about the Beatles documentary that came out. You watch that? What was it called? Get Back?
Get Back, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw parts of it. Yeah. I didn't watch the whole thing.
I'm still not all the way through it. I need to get through it because it's amazing.
Same here.
It's
on
amazing.
My list.
It's so cool. Oh my God. But it's interesting because someone pointed this out. I saw it online somewhere when it came out, and it was talking about this whole craze of vintage gear and stuff like that. Oh, we need that stuff to sound like that or whatever. And when the Beatles went in to do those sessions, if you notice the gear that they had, it was all like sent to them by Fender. It was all like Fender Telecasters and shit and Fender amps and stuff. And they were all brand new, like off the shelf, you know, and even at that time, that was the late 60s, there was some vintage shit. You could probably, you know what I mean? It's not the same, obviously not the same vibe, but it's just interesting to think about how they were just like taking stuff off the shelf and like, oh, this is a new tool. They didn't care if they were using the old stuff that they used before or something like that, or they didn't care about what they were using at all. You know what I mean? That was really the main thing, is they didn't seem to really give a shit what they were using. It just sounded sick. And they were like, okay, cool. Let's move on and write some amazing songs. You know what I mean? Like out of nowhere. So it's cool. It's so cool to think about how, you know, none of that stuff really matters really when you get down to it. Like look at like Billie Eilish. She got like 1 million Grammys for something recorded in a basement. It doesn't matter. Like whatever sounds good, you know?
A good song is a good song, and a good recording is a good recording, and a good guitar is a good guitar.
Yep. Exactly.
You know, I think one of the most interesting moments of my life, but also it was a sad moment, but also was very eye-opening, was the first time I ever picked up a pre-war Martin.
Like Road Worn or whatever.
Yeah. Like, because I was like, oh, this is like the holy grail, right?
Yeah.
I picked that thing up and I strummed it and I said, this thing sounds like shit. And the guy was so offended. And I was like, dude, like my $100 Beaver Creek sounds better than this, dude. Like what? And like, I'll pick up like old Gibson Songbirds and stuff. And I'm like, I mean, I get it,
it's but a guitar.
Like, hey man, there's $500 Yamahas that with the right strings, I think sound just as good as this. Sorry. Like, my bad. Like, I don't know. I'm very much a cheap gear nerd. That's what really gets me excited. Right.
Yep. No, there's some great shit. Absolutely. Even like lawsuit guitars, you know what I mean? Like those old Ibanez stuff or Vega or whatever.
Dude, that old Ibanez lawsuit era stuff is like,
it's great. It's so good.
I think personally that some of the lawsuit era, like 70s, 80s Ibanez lawsuit era stuff from Gibson is better than the Gibsons, honestly.
Oh yeah.
I played both and I'm like,
There's a lot. Oh, it's just like anything. They just built them well and they made them of pretty much the same materials just for so much less.
Which is why they had a lawsuit.
yeah, exactly. It's just like they did not have patents. I don't know the history behind it. It just seems weird. I played a couple of those. I want to get some eventually. Everyone I've seen actually has been sick, like Tokais and stuff like that. But like with anything, I just, it's hit or miss. I have to play it, and I would never buy a guitar online or something and have it shipped to me. Unless it was like some sort of sentimental value or something, I don't think that would ever happen, but I have to play it. You know what I mean? And there's just no way to tell other than sitting down with it and playing it.
It's tricky because when you have even like back in the day when I was at the music store, like we got, 10 ESP LTD EC1000s. 5 were black vintage, exact same guitar.
Yep.
Every single one sounded different.
Yeah.
Like I was like, these are the same specs, same wood, same finish. Everything's the same.
Yeah.
Why do they all sound different? This one's chunkier. This one's brighter. This one's got a little more of a mid-range happening. Like they all played relatively the same.
Yeah.
But they all sounded different. And I was like, this is why you always have to hold a guitar in your hands and always play it, right?
Yeah. That's wild.
Which is weird to think about.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of wicked sounding guitars and gears and so forth, I have to ask, how the hell did you get such a filthy, disgustingly awesome tone for Sludge, the new single? Because the tone of that song, I was like, what the fuck? Like, it was fucking wicked.
Thanks, man. Yeah. It was my trusty Explorer, Gibson Explorer, 2003 it's a 76 reissue that they did in 2003. And, it's got Sheptone pickups in it, the BK humbuckers, which, they've been in there for years now. They're just amazing. So fucking good. And they're kind of built for Explorers, I guess. So that's the guitar. And then we used Attribute Audio Designs. It's called a Big Fatty Fuzz. It's the one that I used on our other recordings. It's actually the same exact setup, maybe a different volume setting on the guitar or tone pot for Jungle. It was the same rig. And it's also the same pedal I used for like Away From Home, for example, on our first EP. It's basically a tone bender. It's just a fucking old style kind of fuzz pedal, and it's got a bias knob on it so you can set the voltage, which is really great. And so we just dialed it back until you get that resonance, and then it kind of gates it a bit. And the rig was the Morris amp, the red one that I have, the XS2. That one is like the main kind of thing. I think that was going through a Marshall 4x12 with greenbacks, like that 100th anniversary one. I think the studio had it or whatever. So that was the one. We had a diesel Einstein, and then we had through a diesel 412 V30s. And then that was the tightness, And then We also had, I think the other amp, we had a few that we had put up, but we only used a couple or whatever. And then the other one that we kind of fed in there was the Marshall JCM 800 combo that Matt Grady, our producer and engineer, it's his combo. And it's from like the early 80s or whatever. I don't think it's even modded or anything. It just has that Marshall sort of throatiness, you know? And so those three things together, yeah, with that pedal and that guitar. Yep.
Well, it is a killer tone and a killer freaking riff. And it was something that when I heard through the grapevine that you guys are getting ready to drop something, I was like, after the Triumph that was Jungle, like I was like, you could go a couple different ways, right? You had the more straight up rock and roll stuff. Then obviously like with Jungle, it was very sludgy and kind of grungy. So it's like, I wasn't sure what to expect, but the second I heard, and also when I saw the name Sludge, I was like, I mean, come on, that's just, and it was just, I literally said to myself, this is filthy. And I love it. Like
that's what we want.
Gnarly.
That's what we were going for. That's great. Sludge was actually the working title too. It just worked perfectly for the subject of the song. And it just stuck around. It was a demo for so long that was called Sludge, and we named it that because of the vibe of the riff and everything. Just like that was the only word to describe it, you know. And then it turned out that it just really worked for the. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It worked for the vibe of the song, you know, and it just worked then the lyrics. Coincidentally, obviously, were also in that same vibe, so it just kind of worked. You know what I mean? And it wrote itself in that way. It went through a lot of versions actually with the lyrics and shit, but I ended up going back to like one of my first versions of it, I think it was, and just sort of like refining it a little bit. But we wrote lyrics a lot for it and stuff, and I really wanted to get it right. And like I said before, like I just don't like if I can't like it needs to flow for me. It needs to be a story. It needs to make sense, and just like it just bothers me if there's like maybe a contradicting lyric in the second verse to the first verse. Is like that doesn't make much sense though, because I'm like writing from the perspective of something specific, perhaps, or it's not really too specific for me, but it's like usually I find a perspective that I'm writing from, and so if it doesn't like check out, then it's just like that doesn't make any sense. I need to fix that. So what about the thesaurus and the synonym.com and all that shit, and then find a new lyric.
I think that's a very underrated writing partner sometimes.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
It's thesaurus and
they save the day all the time, like every time. Yeah.
Do you find you have any, I'm just curious on this, do you find you have any like buzzwords that you tend to want to use a lot and then you're like, oh shit, I better not?
Not really, I don't think. I've actually tried to have sort of Easter egg words a little bit in Jungle EP specifically. There's a couple times where I'll say stuff that was from like a different lyric, because I noticed like some of my favorite bands did that and stuff, and it was just like kind of cool. I don't know. I just liked that. Like Chris Cornell, for example, uses the word snake a lot. So I always thought that was like it's such a specific lyric to have, and so it's just in a few different instances, and so it's just always cool to me. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun to be able to do stuff like that and drop little Easter eggs, and the fans are like, yo, what? Like, that's sick.
Yeah, I just like to kind of tie stuff together for, you know, I like our music to be kind of like cohesive like that. I don't know. That's just how I think about it, I guess.
Well, what I would love to do now is to actually play the single for everybody, and then we'll come back with Myke and maybe riff a little bit more on the single. But it dropped September 8th, as you guys are hearing this. It is kick-ass. Crank it up. I highly recommend, if you are for some reason not listening to this on a pair of headphones or a good pair of speakers, do so right now, because you really need a good sound system to get the full effect of how massive and awesome this track is. So crank it up. This is the brand new single from the Jailbirds. This is Sludge. Okay, there you have it. That is Sludge by the Jailbirds. Dude, that fucking track slaps. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, thanks,
I
man.
love it, man.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite riffs we have, I think. Yeah.
I can see why. How much was that riff repeating when you wrote it, be honest?
A lot. Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot. That was one.
Did the girlfriend get a little upset on that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I get it. It's a cool riff.
Yeah, that one we've had for a while. I think the demo is like 2017 or 18 or something.
Oh,
even.
wow.
Yeah.
Really? So
it's been a while.
Holy shit. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And it just never, I mean, that was like the main riff or whatever at first, but we didn't really have the arrangement until a little bit later. And then I don't know, if it doesn't, like I said, it just kind of like flows in certain ways and stuff. And I try to work on them and finish them. And sometimes I just don't work and they go on the shelf for a bit, and that's what happens. And so, yeah.
And then you go back and find a banger like Sludge, and you're like, oh, okay.
We should, yeah, we should do
use
that.
This?
Yeah, we should record that. Yeah.
How was so obviously like with the writing process, you went back and kind of rediscovered this and then kind of hashed her out a little bit there, but walk me through the kind of like the lyric writing process for Sludge. Like I know you had mentioned before about how you'll, sit down with the thesaurus and that to kind of, but like walk me through a little bit of the lyrical content for Sludge.
Yeah. It's about, from my perspective, at least, it's about sort of like toxic traits in general. I would say it's just a good metaphor for it. I think it's a good way of thinking about, because, we went through, I went through kind of like a, personal thing, with some, it was a toxic relationship. There's nothing else I can really call it. And it was just like a big learning experience and everything. And just, it's all fine. It's whatever. But it's important to, trust your gut, I guess, and to be able to pinpoint some of those things. And it just, the lyrics kind of, once I had that sort of idea for it or whatever, like, cause I said before, like it was like the music was there, but the lyrics weren't for a while, and just didn't find the right subject that really worked with it. Like I said, I wrote it a million times, and then I ended up going back to like an old melody, but the lyrics were completely different now. And just like once I knew, like, oh, okay, that's what I want to write about, then it was like, so I like writing about things that are personal to me, and I have some sort of connection to. I don't like just kind of writing whatever. And so that's, it's sort of like from the perspective of like, it's almost like a warning from like, I would say it's like a warning from a Grim Reaper or something like that. Some sort of, ghostly figure or some shit, and it's kind of like warning you and telling you the story about. It's almost like ancient scripture or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Where it's just like a sort of a grand, embellished sort of story of like. I don't even know what to call aliens or some shit. You know what I mean? Where they have like all these wild explanations for things. And so sludge is the way they explain it. That's all. That's how I think about it. And so like, it's a great metaphor for that with like the toxicity and stuff like that, you know? So that's why it stuck around as the working title. And then it was like, oh, once I made that connection, it was like, oh fuck, that's great. That's great. And so, writing the lyrics was pretty easy once I figured that out. And again, I wanted to make it kind of like whisper in your ear sort of thing. So that's where a lot of the words came from too, because that perspective needed to have specific, sort of ways of saying things, you know?
Fucking aliens, bro.
Yeah. Crop circles and shit. Yeah.
It was that show with the dude with aliens, bro.
Yeah. No, that's an old meme. But yeah, you know, like hieroglyphics or something, like in the pyramids or some shit, and they're just like, you know what I mean? I would picture it being a picture sort of description of it, and that's what you would draw is some dude or something with some sludge inside of his chest or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a very sort of primitive, like, is that what they're called? I'm not even sure. I don't want to say it and it's wrong. It sounds dumb. Hieroglyphic? Is that what it is? I don't know.
Hieroglyphics. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
someone Google that.
Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics or whatever. Yes, yeah. Let's look it up.
Someone fact check us.
I like to fact check now anytime I'm doing something and this comes up.
I would love it. Oh,
hieroglyphic, a character used in a system of pictorial writing, particularly that form of an ancient Egyptian monument. So yeah, you're on the right track.
Awesome. I was unsure. I'd like to check. You know,
The Harder Show fact checkers have deemed this correct.
I don't want to use some random word, you know. But yeah, that's great. Okay, so that's kind of what I was trying to say. Is like really, that's what I picture it as. It's a great metaphor for that kind of stuff. And it also, I actually had some friends listening to it, and they were mentioning, I just sent them the song. I didn't say anything about it. And then upon their first listen, they were like, "Is this about like anxiety or depression or something like that?" And I was like, you know what? I never really thought about it, but that actually kind of really works with that too as a metaphor. And I didn't even realize it, but I actually read back through it. And then it was like, oh yeah, like I could totally see that perspective. And I didn't even think about it while writing. So that was really neat for me. That's why I love music. You know what I mean? Everybody can have their own, twist on it. You know, you can be I remember being in a stadium and there's like, 10,000 people, 20,000 people or something. They're all like singing these words and stuff. And it's like, they all probably have different reasons for it too. I like to think about that kind of stuff sometimes. It's just like blows my mind, just like looking across and just like, this is fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like I was at a Bruce Springsteen concert and that happened. Everyone was screaming the words and it was like, this is awesome. This is so, so cool. Yeah.
And like you say, it can literally mean like songs that's the power of music, right?
Yeah.
Where words fail, music speaks. There's so much power to be had in a song lyric or in a word that everyone can interpret things differently. Like with the sludge metaphor, I thought it was cool because I got the vibe of what you were going for right away. Like I was like, okay, the sludge is a metaphor for this toxic, and I was like, that's really cool. I didn't get that being like almost like a metaphor for mental health, but that's really powerful too. Like, and that's so cool to hear that people, it's the beauty of doing something creative, right? Someone can see something else in your art and it's like, I never saw it like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's pretty wild.
As far as the actual like recording process of the song, how did that go? Where'd you guys record it? Was this still like at the height of the pandemic when you guys recorded this, or?
We actually we got the beds done for this at the same time as recording the Jungle EP. So it was actually recorded. All the guitars and the bass were recorded in November, or no, it would have been I want to say February 2020, like right before the pandemic. And then we had our buddy Jeff Cox play drums on it, and that wasn't until like a year and a bit later, in like May of 2021. I want to say that happened around the time we released Jungle. Actually, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and then like I said, I recorded the vocals like what 2-3 months ago, probably July 2022. So it's just it kind of chipped away at it bit by bit. And that was sort of the process we took for that one, and a few, the songs that are going to be coming out over the next little while. And it was sick. We recorded it at EMAC Recording Studios. Forgot to mention that before, just like the other EPs, like I said. And yeah, it's just it's a great spot, and we get amazing results out of there. And Matt Grady is the engineer there and produces our stuff, and we just have a great relationship, and it's just we work really well together. That's why I think it sounds the way it does, is because like we have fun. You know what I mean? We vibe off of each other, and we both want to have this. We both have the same goal, which is to have the sickest guitar tone, that we can get, the sickest drum sound that we can get, and everything. Like, it's just, there's no settling for it not being awesome. You know what I mean? Like, we can't, if we don't listen back and look at each other and just are like, oh my God, this is fucking sick. Like, it's not good enough yet. And so that's great. I love that. And yeah, just like anything else, really, we just have a good time. Just try to chill out and eat some good food. They've got some great restaurants in London, Ontario. Matt is like, he knows all the great spots. So we always, get him to suggest stuff for us. And it's a great time down there. So, we're definitely going to do more there, whenever we can. It's sick. Everybody should go there. It's awesome. It's a good spot.
Do you have a food of choice you like to eat while you're recording, or snacks you like to eat, or anything? 'Cause I'm always curious about stuff like that.
Definitely, because when I'm singing, I'm pretty particular, so I don't drink, or I'm drinking a ton of water. I'm watching sort of what I eat a little bit too, like no spicy things if I can and stuff like that. But what I've found is that Miss Vicky's salt and vinegar chips don't affect my voice that much. They actually kind of they kind of help a little bit. I'm gonna say that.
Oh, is that the secret?
It's in the chips, really. And I gotta have those around. They're good. Like especially when I'm singing and I'm trying to get through different parts and stuff like that, and I want to take a break, just like 2 minutes or something, just like chilling out for me, and just like, I don't know, watching a YouTube video. Matt might be comping something or some shit, and I'm just chilling out, eat a few chips, drink some water, back ready to go. Here we go. That, and then I don't know. That's pretty much it. That's my main thing, and then like tea and stuff like that around too. That's a must for sure. But yeah.
So the secret to getting a great vocal take, you heard it here, folks. Myke Penny from the Jailbirds, Miss Vicky's salt and vinegar chip. Because I was told once before by a hardcore vocalist, so he's just screaming his head off all the time. He told me that the secret is Mountain Dew.
Oh,
and I thought that was a little silly. And I told him that. And he said, dude, nah, man, something about Mountain Dew would coat you throat.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. That stuff he used that to clean fucking truck engines with. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I've been known to use Diet Coke to take rust off stuff myself.
Oh, yeah.
So
it works. It works.
Some for the stuff I'm cleaning, some for TJ.
That stuff will melt. Oh yeah, yeah, that's great. I used to. Yeah, I kind of like coffee for that too. Sometimes coffee. I mean, if you go too far with coffee, it's not good for your voice. Caffeine isn't really. I actually I try to drink like decaf or something, but there's something about coffee too. It does kind of coat your voice in a way, and it just like helps me So it's all about relaxation for me. You know what I mean? Trying to just relax everything. And, you know, if I'm chilling out, not thinking about much and just drinking the water, you know, staying hydrated, that's really what it's all about. So.
And avoid the spicy foods. That's key.
Yeah. Singing is, it causes like acid reflux sometimes for me. So actually like all the time. So, if I can avoid trigger foods, I know salt and vinegar chips. You guys are all listening to this. Like you're a dumbass.
Bro.
So, you know, I have like a pill for it.
I think you're onto something, brother.
But
I don't know.
I try to I'm avoiding most things. I know most of the biggest trigger for me really is, I think, alcohol and like stress and stuff for that stuff. So I just try to chill out. And so if I deprive myself of everything that's awesome, I think that will be arguably worse than me, you know, not doing my thing. My vocal coach said to me, there's rules with singing for sure. Or they're more like guidelines really, you know what I mean? Just like anything, where you feel it out for your own body. You can kind of figure out your own way of doing things, but there's sort of general paths that you want to take for sure with breathing and, you know, how you do things like that. But also a really important thing with singing, because your instrument is your body, to do something that maybe isn't in your normal routine, arguably could throw you off. Stuff like, you know, what food you eat, you know what I mean? If you like completely, because I tried that before where it's like I had like on and off times where it's like, oh, I'm doing a lot of shows, so I'm going to have like this diet. And then like when I'm not, I'm going to be more lenient and have tomato sauce all the time and pasta and shit. You know what I mean? The tomato sauce is really bad for it. So, but it doesn't work because then it's like, it throws you off when you go to your off months, you know? So you just got to find a consistent thing that you can do all the time. That's my opinion. Yeah. Because you want to live, but you also want to sing. So you got to find that happy medium. Because otherwise, like some singers are like, oh, I don't do anything. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't go outside. I don't, you know, breathe if I see smog or, you know what I mean? All these wild things. And it's just like, I just hold my breath through it.
I don't know why that made me laugh so much. Actually, I can just picture, you know, I can't breathe.
Hold my breath. Yeah.
I got to hold my breath while we walk through here.
I don't know. I just think I tried that for a bit and it's not fun. So,
bro, there's singers like that. And then there's like, you know, Ronnie James Dio.
That's what I'm saying, man. Dio
said famously, yeah. You probably know the quote. It's like,
love Dio.
If you have to, it was David Draymond from Disturbed said this.
Love it.
We probably know the quote. For those who don't know, David Draymond was opening for Ronnie James Dio, or Dio.
Disturbed, yeah.
He asked, he was warming up and Dio, I guess, walked by him and was like, oh, what are you doing, David? Or however he says it. And he saw him just warming up and he goes, oh, you warm up? Oh, like, and he's like, do you not? And he says, brother, if you got to warm up, you don't got it. And then he walked away, went up to a counter and did a bunch of Jack Daniels and went on stage.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's singers and then there's immortal gods like Ronnie James Dio.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. There's always phenoms. That's what those guys are called, phenoms.
Yeah. And people who can just, like the John Daly's of the singing world, who just can, you know, smoke 4-packs while in the studio and drink a bunch of Diet Coke. And for some reason, it just works for them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Dio, he's, otherworldly. That guy. Just crazy good. He just had that.
Yeah, that's funny, man. Do you find at all that THC affects your voice at all? Because I have found that I cannot do anything remotely podcast related if THC is in my system.
Oh, really?
I don't know what it is.
It helps me a lot, actually.
Yeah, interesting.
A lot of what I go for with singing is relaxing, obviously, my neck and specifically the back of my tongue. That's the secret for anybody listening, for that sort of sparkly tone that singers have. If you're interested, I'll quickly mention it's just basically like, you know, your soft palate in the back of your throat. You know what I mean? It's you can't see my hands obviously because it's a podcast, but it's curved, you know, when you're relaxed. And then when you tense up those muscles in the back of your mouth or whatever, mainly your tongue and stuff, it actually kind of flattens out that muscle a little bit and it cuts off the overtones of your note. And so that's the name of the game, relaxing the back of your tongue. And THC helps a lot with that sometimes. Obviously, smoking can be counteractive. However, it's about a happy medium, just like anything. I think if you do way too much of anything, it's bad. I'm not condoning smoking, kids, here, but I'm just saying if it's possible. I sometimes smoke a bowl before I sing, and it sometimes helps me relax, and then therefore I'm singing better. But yeah, you could take it too far, I think. Absolutely. Yeah, it helps me, I would say.
Right on. I don't know if it was just that, because I'm only an edible, and I was just introduced actually a couple of days ago as we record this to the wonders of like the drinks with THC in them.
Oh,
and that has changed my life.
Those are good.
Because I'm going to try those and do a podcast, because I'm like, I think that, because for whatever reason, my throat gets all tensed up, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a very experienced THC user, obviously, too. Maybe that's why. But that's interesting. I was just curious.
Yeah,
I know that you dabble in the.
That's why a lot of singers, they argue that alcohol and cigarettes help them sing. Because that, what is the chemical? I think it's the dopamine or whatever that relaxes you, that you get from that experience of getting the buzz or whatever, and that relaxes those muscles in your mouth and in your tongue just naturally a lot of the time. And so that's why you see Chris Cornell or Dio on stage and they're smoking a cigarette, and then all of a sudden they sound better. And it's like, what the fuck? How does that work? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it kind of does. It just like a little bit, and they were just so relaxed and hydrated enough, really. Probably maybe it's beer in there, I don't know, but there's some liquid going on because it's not dry, obviously. Listen to them. And so they're just that relaxation allows that air to exit their face so beautifully like that.
And this is why you should take vocal lessons with Myke Penny, folks, because I just learned more about singing in that 5 minutes than I have in 30 years on this planet. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do lessons. So yeah, if you're interested, let me know.
Yeah, people hit them up. That's the way to do it. Well, speaking of, being able to play shows and things like that, obviously the last time that we spoke, shows weren't really a thing. I know you guys did an acoustic performance at the Absinthe or something of that nature, but there wasn't really anything going on. And now, obviously, you guys have got 2 new members that are officially in the Jailbirds, a couple new birds, I guess, so to speak.
New bird boys.
And then now you're off playing shows all the time. How has that experience been?
Oh, it's been great. We ran into Kevin and Hayden what was it, December of last year, so 2021, and it's been great, actually. Yeah, we've when we started Jailbirds, we had an organ player at the very beginning, and it just we got to a certain point where we were a 3-piece for a while. That's all, and we just kind of chugged along as that. And then, but it was always there in our minds. We wanted to have something like that. And then it was the right time. We met Hayden at, we did this live stream, speaking of those, in 2021. It would have been, Oshawa Music Week. It's on our YouTube if you're interested in seeing it. And we had our buddy Jeff on the drums in this stream, who ended up recording Sludge's drums, and our friend John on guitar on that one. And so at that point we were trying to get a 4-piece going at that point and stuff. And so and then things went on, and Hayden actually filmed that set. That's what I was going for there. Is Hayden was the film guy for that, and that's how we met him. And then later on he was like, oh, hey, I also play keyboards. And he literally sent me a video of him playing Watery Grave, and it was like, oh, okay, this is cool as fuck. That's what we want. And so then I learned he plays guitar too. And then I'm like, okay, sick, because there's some songs that don't have organ, so we could do a hybrid thing. And then it just it took a while for us to jam. We didn't end up jamming until December, even though we kind of talked about it over the summer. It just sort of didn't work out. We were looking for a permanent drummer. And so we wanted to get that down first because we had some shows and stuff. So we're like, we need a drummer, you know what I mean? So we don't like need a keyboard player right now. So it really just wasn't on our priority list. But we ended up jamming in December with him and Kevin, and it was sick. It was really great. It was sort of an instant thing that we were looking for, and we found it with both of them where it was just like I said, it was instant. We started playing, and immediately Liam and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, this is cool. And walking out of the first rehearsal, I think actually like the first thing we ever did, we walked in there where we were waiting for someone to show up. I can't remember, but I guess Kevin and I guess it was Hayden was on the way, and Liam and Kevin and I just like jammed out to Seven Seas Blues just randomly because like I don't know, we started like feeding back because we set up our rigs and shit. So the intro, what we did coincidentally sounded like the intro to Seven Seas Blues, like sort of, and like we all kind of realized it. And we're like, oh, okay. We just kept going and ended up playing the whole song, and it was fucking dope. And so then that was sort of the beginning. And then we added keyboards to it like 20 minutes later, and then we're like, this is sick. Yeah, we started jamming some Deep Purple, started jamming some of our stuff because our Jungle EP has organ on it. It has some keyboard stuff on it. So Hayden plays a little bit of organ, plays a little bit of synth stuff, plays guitar. So yeah, it's been great. It's sort of what we imagined from the beginning, really. It just, now we were able to put it to fruition, and it's been wonderful to really sort of portray the songs sort of more properly live and stuff. Whereas before I was doing a lot of, like I was kind of juggling a lot with guitar. I was sort of the main melodic lead instrument in that terms, and then I'm lead singing too. So it's like, it's, you know, it's fun for me as well, but it's also like there's a lot of stuff that now I can back off and maybe not do a verse because Hayden's there, and it's added a really great dynamic to it. It's nice to be able to do that kind of shit. It really is cool. Yeah. And we got a lot of gigs in September. It's crazy, actually. Check out our listing. At this point, yeah, we played a few gigs already, I guess. And then it's been really awesome for us. Like in over the summertime, we've been really grateful and lucky enough to have a bunch of offers come in for shows that were really cool. And it just worked out for our Sludge release. So that's, it's great. Yeah, no, it's been awesome to see live music coming back, especially locally. We're all from Mississauga mainly. And it's been awesome to see a lot of actually live music happening in Mississauga specifically, as well as everywhere else, just because pre-pandemic, really, there was nowhere to really play for a rock band in Mississauga, sort of. You know what I mean? There was cover bands going on. There was some, you know, bars and stuff doing that, but there was no like Bovine or something of that nature, right? There was no rock bar or something like that specifically had, you know, kind of up and coming bands and stuff like that until now. So there's a couple of places going on now, which is great. And so it's been sweet, really. Yeah. Live music. It was, it's needed. It's really needed. I needed it.
It's awesome to see it coming back. Two things that I want to make sure we talk about that you guys actually have coming up, like literally like in a couple of days as this drops. So first off, you guys were nominated for a Mississauga Music Award. Yeah, which is very, very cool. And that event happens on September 16th. So you guys are hearing this on the 15th. So
yeah,
if you're in the area, check it out. If there are still tickets available, because yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's sweet. They've always been Mississauga Music, and Demetrius, the owner and operator of that, is they're great over there, and they've always been really great to us and really supportive. And we were fucking blown away when we got that email. You're nominated for this. We're like, what? Like, that's insane. We actually were nominated and won Best Rock in 2018 at the same award show. And so, yeah, it's an honor to go back and to be recognized by the city that we're from in that way. You know what I mean? It really is like, we were shocked by it. We were like, sick. It's unreal to get that news. That's not what we made the songs for. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not like going out for that shit. And so for someone to recognize that and say that we're nominated for Best Live Band, we're just like, what the fuck? That's wild. Yeah. we're very grateful. Yeah.
It's awesome, and I mean, it's very well deserved. I think you guys are
Thanks, man.
one of the fucking best, man. There's a lot of kick-ass rock bands out there, but you guys are definitely, I think, a cut above quite a few. But something else really cool that's happening as this weekend, as you guys are hearing this, the Gussapalooza 2022, September 16th to 18th in Cookstown, Ontario. 3 days, over 70 bands. There's comedy, live art, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff happening. Freaking Jailbirds are on the bill, and also a lot of other kick-ass bands. I did also see that Drop Top Alibi is on the show as well.
Yeah.
So shout out to them, as well as a lot of other fantastic musicians. You guys excited to play have you guys like played any like festival-y type shows since the pandemic, or?
We really quick. I just wanted to mention Jeff Cox, our buddy who played drums on our stuff. His band is Drop Top Alibi. So that's, we're friends with those guys.
Right on. Okay.
So he plays in that band, and that's how we know him, actually. So that'll be so much fun. Always fun to play with friends, and especially like a festival like that. It's going to be, I saw photos from last year, and it's on this really big space, and they've got it's like a legit fucking stage and everything. Everything is top notch, and it looks really, really cool. So I'm pretty stoked about it for sure. We got the call last minute, and they didn't need to fill a slot, and they were like, "Hey, are you available on the Saturday at 8:45 p.m.?" And we're like, "Fuck yeah, we are. That's awesome. That's a great slot." So we got a 45-minute slot at that time. And it's like I said, like we were very lucky to have some of these offers come in around our Sludge release time. And now that it's out, we're playing these wicked shows, and this amazing festival, Gussapalooza, is geared around supporting local indie artists that might not have an opportunity, perhaps, to play on a stage such as that and have such a platform, which is awesome. All right. And to answer your question, we have played Voodoo Rock Fest a couple times, which is of a similar nature. It is geared around having indie bands and stuff like that perform on a festival stage to a festival crowd and stuff like that. And Joe over at Voodoo has been great to us as well, really supportive of us since the very beginning, really. And he gave us a shot to play on this festival stage all those years ago. And so we've been back twice. I think we did it, I want to say 2020 was the one. So that was like during the pandemic, and it was right around when restrictions were okay for like 150 people gathering outside or something. And so he has this huge property, and he threw it all on it used to be, he's run it for a lot of years, Joe at Voodoo. And it used to be in a certain park, I think in Kingston or something. And now he's moved it to this lot that he has. And it's huge. It was awesome. Stage was sick. Volunteers were amazing. Crew's awesome. It's a great thing. And Gussapalooza, I'm sure will be the same. I've never been there, but again, I saw like some stuff from last year, and it just looks absolutely crazy good. They got some great sponsors going there too, and everything. All the bands are wicked. So we're again very grateful to have been asked to be a part of it. It should be a fun time.
Wicked, man. Big shout outs to the Voodoo Rockfest crew. Actually, my graphics guy, Jason from Jailbirds Large, is heavily involved with that. So yeah, that's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, they're great.
Definitely so, man. Well, listen, it's been great getting to catch up with you and play the new single for everybody and learn a little bit about it. I know that anytime you guys have anything going on, I'm like, we gotta talk, because that's just, I always have fun chatting with you and just shooting the shit. I love just nerding out on you with you sometimes, because it's just, I know that you know so much, so I'm always just like,
I actually ordered a cabinet today, literally today. I have to tell you about it now.
Please do.
It's my first ever Morris custom guitar cabinet, which I'm very excited about. I've had many a cabinet, and this one I rented. Glenn Morris is his name, who's the owner of Glenn or fucking Morris amps, and he is a pretty special guy for sure. He's a wizard, and he really knows tone. And one time he let me rent this 2x12 cab he has. And it's the same color as my red amp, which they don't make that Tolex anymore and shit. So it was fun. It was a matching cabinet. It was nice. And then it was like the best cabinet I've ever had. I rented this thing for Black River actually, and that was the main cabinet for like all the leads and stuff like that. And it just sounds so wonderful. It's like, it's a big box, so it's nice, and it's sort of in between a 4x12 sound in terms of the low end, you know what I mean? Because it's got that bigger box, but it's not as big, obviously, and bulky. And I love driving. There's something about driving two speakers for me that something about it. I love it. And rather than one's a little too much for some stuff. I love it too, but something about two speakers, versus 4 or 1 or 6 or whatever the fuck. And just 1 amp, those 2 speakers, I don't know. I like it. And so I ordered it today. It's going to come soon, and that's going to be my main show cabinet or whatever. I'm going to put most likely Celestian Redbacks in it, which I have a couple of. I'm going to put those in there. I used to tour with those like as my main speakers in 1x12 cabinets, but now I'm just going to put them both in this 2x12 and just fuck shit up with that. So yeah.
That is the definition of you want to hear guitarists say when talking about their live rig. I'm ready to fuck shit up.
Yeah, yeah. Because these speakers, man, I don't know if you tried them, but they're red backs. So you can, as the name suggests, they're like a greenback vibe, but they're 150 watts each speaker. So that's really they were geared towards being able to run a 100 watt Marshall or similar through a 1x12 cabinet. That's really what they were designed for. They happen to sound fucking amazing, like stupid good. Like they have the greenback thing, the low end, and the whole thing, but they're just laughing at your amp in terms of power. So it's just like you can just drive it all fucking day, and it doesn't get greenbacks. I find for me just get a little bit too broken up sometimes. You push them too. I like to really push the amp when we're recording to that sweet spot, and then the speakers are just singing. You know what I mean? They're not crying. They're singing. So I love it. It's great. It's good shit.
That's fucking awesome, dude. One more thing I got to ask you.
Yeah.
You did mention it earlier, and I meant to ask because I'm also a microphone nerd.
Okay.
What do you use for recording these days with your vocals and that?
Sludge was an SM7B with Apollo twin interface, and I just had a couple of the stock plugins on it that it comes with or whatever, the UAD preamp or whatever. And then actually a lot of the Jungle EP, I want to say all of the Jungle EP was an AKG. What do they call it? I want to say it's called a C12,000 or something. I don't know. It's like a little silver. It looks like a C414, but it's silver, and it's like old as fuck. And we shot out a few mics actually at the studio, and all of which were top of the line, and we just A/B'd them all on top of the mix, and it was wild because it like took it from like the other microphones. Everything sounded great, but it was all in the middle. Everything in the mix was just sort of sandwiched in the middle. And then when we switched to this other mic, this AKG one, it just took the vocals and just put it on top. It was like absolutely fucked how much like, oh shit, like that's what I'm talking about. It was really cool. I'll have to figure out which mic that was, but I'm sure it's like $20,000 or something. So I'm not gonna own it or anything. But yeah.
I always have this conversation with my buddy who's my old producer of the show here. He is a voiceover guy, and he worked in radio. So he has all these like he bought a mic. I wish I could remember the name of it, and I keep meaning to ask him, but it was like an $8,000 microphone that he bought.
Jeez.
And he was like, dude, get over here. Because he has like a full booth and everything, right? And I'm sitting in there, and he has this microphone set up for me. Excuse me. And I'm using this microphone, and I can hear it in my headphones, and I'm like, where's my zoom?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what it, I have that. And then my Sennheiser, ES85 or something of that nature.
Oh yeah.
For whatever reason, I need this microphone's $100, and I find I have shot out tons of different microphones in my room while recording podcasts. I find this one for some reason overall sounds the best for me.
Yeah.
Even comparing it to an $8,000 microphone. It's just everyone's different. Everything's different.
Totally.
Right? That's the beauty of microphones. But I'm always on the quest for microphones myself personally. That's like my version of the guitar tone search that I know you're always on too.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
That's what it's all about. All right, brother. Well,
Sweet.
Thank you so much for the time. And I could sit and talk gear with you for another 3 hours, but we'll let you go. But thank you so much for the time, bro. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Where can the good people find the Jailbirds if they want to check you guys out more?
You can find everything on our website, thejailbirds.com, or our Facebook page, Instagram page. We're pretty active on there and stuff. And that's basically where you can find out all of our stuff on our, we got a bunch of YouTube videos. It's all linked in the website. So just go there. You can find our stuff on Spotify and Apple Music as well. Just search the Jailbirds and I'm sure you'll find us. So yeah, listen to Sludge now. It's out everywhere, wherever you stream your music. And share it with your friends.
Badass. I'll have the link to the website down below, folks. Myke, always a pleasure, brother. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, my pleasure. Absolutely.
All right, folks, there you have it. My chat with Myke Penny from the Jailbirds. What a fantastic conversation. As always, with Myke. Be sure to go check out the Jailbirds. I have the link down below in the description of this podcast to check out their website and support them. Go see them live. They are a kick-ass rock band that definitely deserve your support. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Harder Show. I hope you have hit that subscribe button, left a like, commented, let me know what you thought of the episode and what you thought of the brand new single. And be sure to spread the word of The Harder Show wherever you can. I very much appreciate it. And of course, if possible, leave a rating. 5-star ratings especially help this show grow and help more people find this show so that I can then spread the good word about fantastic bands like the Jailbirds and all the other countless artists and creators that I have on this podcast. That's really what I truly believe in. Spreading the word, having great conversations. That's what this podcast is all about. And before we go, I would of course be remiss if I did not take a second to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon supporters, my hotheads. We of course have the OG hothead, Mr. Scott Duquette. Scott, thanks so much for all your support over the years, brother. You know how much I appreciate you. We have the Grey Rooms podcast. What can I say about the Grey Rooms podcast that I haven't already ad nauseum here on the podcast? Just the best audio drama horror podcast in the world. I'm also, of course, proudly a member of the Grey Rooms Productions Network. So be sure to go check the Grey Rooms out if you're in need of some fantastic horror audio drama content. We, of course, have Ronan Kamori, who is a part of the Baseline Feed podcast, which is also another member of the Grey Rooms Productions Network. Ronan is a fantastic voice actor. Ronan, thanks so much for all the support, brother. We have, of course, Wolf Delta Pi, otherwise known as Tanner Wood, who is one of the co-creators of the Baseline Feed podcast, which, of course, is a part of the Grey Rooms Productions Network. Tanner, thanks for all the support, brother. You are one talented sumbitch. You know how much I appreciate you. We have Eric Phones, who is another of my Patreon supporters, who you actually heard, Eric, if you are a patron, on the latest episode of Taped with Trepidation. You are also going to be hearing him pop up on more future projects. So stay tuned for that. Eric, thanks for all the support, brother. I seriously appreciate it. We have Arthur Unk, the head writer for the Grey Rooms podcast. Arthur, I love you, buddy. Thank you so much for all of the support and all you do for the Grey Rooms podcast. And then, of course, we have, last but not least, we have Mr. Myke Quintero from Mike's Mystery Mansion. Fantastic horror narration podcast. Go check it out. Mike's my buddy. And Myke, I appreciate all the support, brother. If you would like a little shit like that at the end of every single episode of The Harder Show, consider checking out patreon.com/The Harder Show and finding the tier that is right for you. $5 and above gets you access to my exclusive monthly show, Taped with Trepidation, which is a horror narration podcast that I'm having way too much fun with. And I will be planning on ramping that up after my wedding is done. And also some fun other plans coming up for the Patreon once again after into October. Let's just say I have a lot of fun things planned for the later half of 2022 for the podcast and also into next year. So stay tuned. A lot of great things coming. And now is the time to jump on the bandwagon because the more support I have, the cooler things I can do. And I have so many plans, but I can't do it without your help and your support. So consider checking out the Patreon. I appreciate it. Even if you can just go on the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, leave me a follow, share this podcast with your friends. All that helps so much. You don't have to be a patron to help support this podcast, even though it does help a lot. Just spreading the word is the best way to help this show. Word of mouth is so important in the podcast world. I appreciate it. I appreciate you tuning in, and I will catch you next time on The Harder Show. Take it easy, guys.